Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor. My camera's all over there, what's going on? I should be fixing that before we start. This is going to be Season 1, Episode 5 of Mindhunter. It's called Episode 5. It is... So we're halfway through, we've watched half the show now, half the season. Full spoilers for the episode as always, and we'll get into it. So this was very case-focused, this episode. This was almost entirely just the case that we were introduced to last episode with this small town, this Beverly character who's been murdered.
And yeah, and I think it's really interesting that it's so focused on that, and it's still not resolved either.
It's not, no, we actually end in a kind of... It's funny because we happen to check the run times already just because we're curious. Just in terms of fitting these episodes in around all the other schedule stuff we do, it's sometimes nice to know if the next one's a short one, we can maybe squeeze it in when we wouldn't have otherwise had the chance. And we know the next one's only like 35 minutes, which is by far the shortest of the season. And I almost think, if the next one finishes this off, you could have almost just put them together and had like a 70-minute episode.
Yeah, they obviously made the
Arguably.
choice to split
Yeah.
that.
Which I think makes sense because would that have felt too long? It may have done.
I mean, it would have been closer to 80, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But it does almost feel like this one, because of where it ends, it's like, no, the next one's just going to pick up and finish it.
I assume the next one is going to also feel focused and just be the rest of this case.
For the most part,
For
yeah.
the most part, there might be a few other bits here and there, but that'll be the focus of that, I think.
Because a lot of this, I mean, there was no interviewing, like, convicted killers in prison, but it was a lot of interviewing people involved in this case. It was interviewing the fiancé of the victim, it was interviewing the victim's, or the fiancé's mother, and then the fiancé's brother-in-law, like, just it's all these people involved. I kept wanting to say the victim's family members, but it wasn't, it was all his.
Yeah, it's all. I want to say it's application of what they've learned, but a lot of it isn't. I mean, that is elements of that, but a lot of it seems like, no, this is just police work.
There's some of it. It's kind of a mix, because at one point Holden even says, like, should we even be looking into this? Because if it's not a serial killer, then, are we really wasting our time here? And then he looks at the photos again and goes, yeah, I mean, the way the body's mutilated kind of like justifies our involvement, because this is kind of like this could be the start of one of these people. But
it does feel like a meta commentary. It's like, yeah, this is almost a stretch to kind of include this, but we wanted to anyway.
I think it's worth it. Like, if it's loosely based on like how this journey went, and they hit these bumps in the road where they weren't sure if this case applied to them, like, it's worth ruling what ones out. What ones should be ruled out. They have to make those choices. But at the same time, they're still using some of the stuff. Like when they interview the fiancé and he starts talking about how he lived alone with his mother and he was kind of a loner until he met this woman. It's like, oh, okay, we're kind of seeing some of these things where he was just him and his mother and.
Yeah, there's a nice touch later on when they're interviewing the sister, and it goes a close up on her arm and it shows you the bruises, but then Holden shifts and mirrors her, which is obviously a conversation they'd had with Debbie before.
Yeah, that was the last episode. Yeah, she talked about how you do that to try and like gain their trust.
Yeah,
kind of thing. What was interesting to me in this episode about Debbie, like her scene, because she's in one scene, like Holden comes by and he like talks to her. It's right after, like, we've seen it before, how he kind of goes to her and like the conversation typically tends to come from whatever he was just doing in the case or whatever. And here it was really on the nose because, like, they were talking about how this fiancé, like, oh, maybe he was threatened because she was more, even though she was younger, she was more experienced sexually than he was. If he was a virgin before they started going out, he felt intimidated by that. And he comes by her, back to Debbie's, and he makes some small talk, but he gets to this, talking about her past when she was in college, and it gets to like, sexual partners, and he's like, oh, how many did you have? Was it 5? So I'm not talking about this 10. Like,
it's like, we're not doing this.
Yeah. But the fact that he cares, he's interested. Like, is that important? Cause,
it's almost obsessive.
Yeah,
like, almost.
It's almost like every time he like meets a new, obviously the previous examples have been people are already convicted, but every time he's working on a killer, whether it's someone who's already caught or someone who might be caught, it feels like he always has to kind of apply it to his own life and like, how do I feel about this? Does this bother me? It's almost like part of it will just be like a normal. Yeah, he's like, I want to know, like, this bothers me. But I almost feel like in a more sort of meta way for himself, he's kind of doing it intentionally to sort of prod himself to see how he feels about it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, rather than just he's feeling jealous, he wants to see if it makes him feel jealous.
Yeah, because he doesn't know, and it's these things that he's never thought about before, and this obviously it's on his mind because these are coming up in the cases, and he's like, okay, well, I hadn't thought about that, maybe I should.
Yeah, so he prods her into prodding himself and see if it actually has an effect. And it's kind of interesting, like, yeah, arguably that's something he could have felt, but he just didn't. Until now, he's never really thought about it. It's not a big deal. She's more experienced than I am, whatever. Like,
Yeah,
clearly,
which was already quite clear already. Like
Yeah.
he was aware of that.
and clearly, much like we talk about how the killers just react to normal things differently. Clearly, not every man reacts the same way to that situation. Like, someone, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Past is the past, big deal. But some get a bit more territorial. Some will do like, oh, get jealous. Some will whatever.
Yeah.
But he's like prodding himself. Like, how does this make me feel? It's interesting. Going with the whole he might have a crush on Wendy theory.
When he offers just to drive, it's like, I'll drive you. It's fine.
And to be fair, there's like an element of it. He wants to talk to her about the case, right? And that's fine. So it's like, okay, I need to go to the airport, but if he takes her, they can talk in the car and get some feedback and advice. But it's the way, like, Bill's noticing this. He's watching him.
Yeah, he offers way too quickly, doesn't he?
He's like, oh, I'll carry your case. He's been very chivalrous, and it just feels just a touch much, just turned up a little too much. And I think she even notices at the end when she walks into the the airport. She's walking through the terminal, and she just we stay on her as he's still standing behind her, and they don't even say goodbye to each other. You can just sort of see she's thinking about like how keen he is, like how much he wants to talk about this stuff. But no, so the entire ride they're talking about what could be driving this. Interesting part that comes up though is that they can't quite. Because she points out that it doesn't quite make sense. Like, anyone who mutilates the body afterward typically does something else with it at that point. Whereas this girl was raped first, and then killed, and then there was mutilation, which doesn't quite track up. And she says it's almost like there's two minds here at work. There's two, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting idea. Or I also thought to myself, or maybe someone's trying to make it look like a more of a serial killer thing when it's not really.
No. I think ultimately it's just foreshadowing.
Oh, it's yeah, absolutely, yeah. But we get to the end of the episode, and now we're like, okay, we have two suspects now who seem to, if not both involved in the murder, are both involved in covering it up.
Yes, they're in cahoots.
Yeah. So this is interesting stuff. But it was just when she said that, I'm like, yeah, that's why it doesn't quite add up. There's something weird about it because of that. But yeah. So yeah, the rest of the episode was purely interviewing the various people involved. We talked about how last episode Holden was getting a little bit testy with this local cop for making mistakes, and I loved it. This episode, it was Bill who was getting tested at the same person.
Straight up berates him at points.
And I kind of get why he does it in this instance and not the last episode though, because everything he's doing wrong in this episode is in front of the suspects. It's in front of people they're interviewing. It's the public.
I think the ones before were like they were harmless. These ones affect the case. Yeah, they actually have a direct impact. Because
he calls ahead and lets the suspect know they're coming to interview him, which they're not meant to do. They want to catch him off guard. That's why when they get back out, we'll go and talk to his mother. Do you want to pull over to the payphone and you can give her a heads up?
Yeah.
He's quite cutting, quite cold, and making sure he knows that.
Just letting him know, it's like, no, you screwed up on this. Don't do this again.
And that was kind of a constant thing throughout the episode as well. Is he's there for all the interviews, like he's there to witness it, and you can see him getting uncomfortable when they start talking about sex and stuff like that, or they start talking about things of that nature. When they start bringing up, oh, did this girl have a reputation? Was she quote unquote easy? That kind of thing. It was giving me some Twin Peaks vibes actually. I was thinking about Laura Palmer and just the idea that she was people, they thought she was a sweet girl, but like there was actually all this stuff going on.
Yeah, and I think it's Bill that mentions at one point, it's like, well, the local cops going, yeah, well, they're all saying she's loyal, she's lovely, and Bill's like, yeah, well, no one wants to call the dead girl easy, because it's like, well, they don't want to insult a memory, so they just be like, yeah, of course she was nice.
Yeah, and he's very resistant, because I love actually when after they speak to the mother, they come out, and both Holden and the cop are kind of trying to like justify why it wouldn't be X, Y, or Z, and he just sort of like goes, both of you don't want it to be a local, but it doesn't add up. Think about it. Why would a local come to this town? If they were going to go hunting, they'd go to a city where there's lots more girls to choose
Yeah, or
from.
just pick them up like someone hitchhiking.
Yeah, and why would they know where the dump is? Because they went to the dump. They went
Yeah.
to the town's dump. They knew where that was. But I like that the couple does kind of have an arc, because eventually he's the one who decides to go and interview the sister. You know, the one who's married to this Frank character. Because we find that we have the fiancée and the mother. We interview both of them, and then we bring in the Frank who's like married to his sister.
Which is done from the cop's initiative, actually, because he's like, oh, I was thinking about something the mother said, and I looked into it. Whereas the two FBI guys didn't even register.
And that's the thing. Bill even compliments him and says, "Oh, that's where." Well, first he says good work, because it was good work, but then he says that's where this small town kind of sentimentality is actually going to work for us, because this was something that happened when this guy was a minor. This Frank, it turns out he hit a girl in the face with a wrench. That was what happened, but because it was a. Why are you smirking at that? You're
Just the way you come out with it, then.
What? Well, that's
just when you just come out with it really casually, it's just like, oh, it turns out he just hit a girl with a wrench.
Well, that didn't mean it like that. Dismissive. I'm just the details of the kid. He didn't kill anyone, Eric. That's what I'm meaning.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And the way he described it later is very. I trust it. He seems trustworthy. Is what I'm saying.
Aye, I mean he's definitely involved in a murder, but trustworthy.
No, I jest, but no, he attacked. He was in a fight, or he attacks this girl when he was a teenager. But he got expunged from his record, so there was no kind of paper trail for it. But because this cop is friends with everyone in the town, and he went around asking, he was able to get information that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to get. So he noticed that there's a benefit to the way these people work, even if there's other things that impede the process. There are some benefits. There's some things that come into it.
Yeah, and I think that's something they'll incorporate into their training, should they continue doing that.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah,
is more the idea going, look, we need to teach you not to do these things, but we want to teach you to play up these aspects. Definitely, especially in the small communities, make friends, really play up those connections.
I think the idea of saying, okay, what tools do you have? And, as FBI guys, we have these tools. We have the analytic tools. We have the experience. But what do you have as local cops? You might think you don't have as much, but you have a different set of tools. You have knowledge of local people. Obviously, the big thing in front of that is that maybe, like this cop did at first, he just didn't want to believe that someone he knew did this.
Yeah, they've got to look at it a bit more impartially.
Yeah.
But the knowledge is useful.
But yeah, once they got past that, he actually had knowledge that helped. And then, he went to the sister. Like he made the choice, because they were going to go back and talk to the fiancée again. Like, no, something's bugging me. Can we go and go somewhere else first?
It's like, I'm not feeling this.
And he takes them to the sister, because he feels that something's not adding up. And they talk to the sister, and again, she kind of corroborates the story that they've been telling. Obviously, we've got more as it went on. Like Frank says, oh no, they weren't really engaged. He thought they were. She was kind of playing him along. And all these.
And then
things.
they ask him, and he's like, "Well, I hadn't got a ring yet, but I'd asked her, and she said yes."
Yeah, and it kind of felt like, okay, you can see where this resentment might have built, that he felt he was being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
I was even thinking, because of the rape aspect, that maybe they hadn't actually had sex together yet, and that was him finally taking it, if you will. He was frustrated that it wasn't happening.
Yeah, it's one of those that could go either way, because it could be that, or it could be, Frank's, he's very clearly and says that he was interested in it, and it's maybe he was the one that raped her, to be like, look this is what I can do. Yeah,
it may have been Frank. We don't actually know yet.
No. But it's easy to justify it for either of them. Yeah. Motivationally, we can see which one it could
motivationally, not justify in terms of the act, just justify
yes.
in terms of why they would do it. Yeah.
Yes.
So they go to the sister, and the sister backs up the story they've been telling, where he was home, he went out for 20 minutes to get some food, but he was back, and all the rest of it. But it's actually, as they're leaving, it's actually the local cop who goes up to her, very friendly, and says, "Look, if you're hiding anything from us, you should fill us in, make the choice now, because if you don't, it'll be very bad for you. It'll be bad for him." And she's holding her baby. That's just newborn baby. And they're back at the station, and they're working on cases just after they've been talking to the other guy.
It's funny because that line that he says, from him it sounds like it's, oh, this is friendly. It's like, look, come on, you want to do this? You put the exact same dialogue coming out of Bill. That's just a threat.
It does sound like a threat, yeah. But she comes back down at the station. She comes back down, and she's like, are we immune? Like, if we help you, me and my baby, are we good? And he leans in and says, yeah, you'll be fine. And once again, we go to an interview. And I think it's notable as well that when they go back down to, like, when they hear about this Frank, and this when they get phoned, he was, he had a record and there's stuff going on, and they go back. I think it's notable that Holden grabs a tape recorder. He says, "Oh, I think we want to get this on tape."
Yeah, and something interesting. I think it was Benji. Benji, yeah, he's the one who. No, I'm just trying to remember if it was him or Frank that mentioned the tape recorder. It's like, oh, you're recording this. Like one of them addressed it.
I think it was Benji.
Right.
Feels like Benji.
And I think that might be important to say which one's the killer based on, I think it was last episode you mentioned how, a couple of the serial killers that we've been interviewing they've made reference to the tape recorder. And
you see, a couple of us have had lots. We've had exactly 2.
Right, but they've both. There's been a common link that you pointed out. Like, even amongst all the things that are different about them, they've both kind of mentioned it.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to guess right now, I think Benji killed her and then Frankie helped cut, because it comes out in interviews as well that Benji says, or Frankie says that, oh, I look out for him. Like, he, like, and the mother says it as well. Like, he would stick up because he was, kind of timid and like people would pick on him. He would make sure that he was like taken care of. He downplays it in the interview though. When they ask him about it, he's like, "Oh yeah, I guess we're kind of close. Look, he's a dweeb, so look out for him." But
that's kind of the opinion that the local cop has as well. Like, the whole community just kind of looks out for him. He's a nice enough guy, but he needs the help.
Yeah. So once again, we're in this interview scene where it's the 2 guys across the table, and I kind of like how the cop's always just kind of up against the window. He's sort of this
off to the side.
Off to the side, he's not really involved, but he eventually does sort of come in and gets close to her. And again, it's like the comforting thing. Like, you've got these 2 feds who are like very, they'll poke prod the buttons, and they're also very sort of strict and professional. And they're kind of, they're both sitting there in their suits, and it's very.
It almost unintentionally plays good cop, bad cop.
In a weird way, even though they're not actually being bad cops, they're just asking.
No, but he comes across. Like I say, they come across stern and severe. They're out of towners, where he's the friendly local face, so it comes across that way.
Yeah, and she starts to tell a story, and I love that it intercut. Like, clearly later on, they've went back to the house and they've looked through all the places for the evidence and where the locations were, and I love that as she's telling the story, it cuts to them looking at the locations later. So she mentions the blood in the bathtub, and you see them looking into the bathtub, and it just even though you don't see the blood, the idea that she's saying it, you see the location, your imagination puts them together.
Yeah, it's like she talks about cleaning it out from between the tiles.
Yeah,
and then you just see them scrubbed raw,
which puts us in the same place as the feds and Holden and Bill, because they didn't see it either, so they'll just imagine it as they look at it, and the cop as well. So. It puts us in their position. But she basically tells the story of how she got called over there because Frank had already been called over because something was wrong, and then Frank called her over, like, bring cleaning supplies. And again, I'm loving whenever Holden and Bill glance at each other like they know something, like that knowing look they give to each other, regardless of what it's for. It's like a little fist pump. It's like, yeah,
it is, isn't it? It's great.
And she's like, so she went over, she helped clean. Like, what happened? And something bad happened. Benji's done something. That's what Frank said. Whether that turns out to be the case is another question, of course. But she goes up because part of me would think that maybe she would feel more inclined to help Benji because he's he feels more like a not a victim, but because he is so timid. Whereas Frank,
he can look after himself almost.
Yeah, like, you kind of buy that if he becomes a killer, it's more.
I think it's from someone like Frank, it feels like, no, this is a choice they've made, especially with their past.
Yeah.
Whereas with Benji, it feels like, no, it must have been an accident. Something got out of hand.
We need to help him. We need to cover for him because, poor Benji, he can't go to prison.
Yeah. And especially, with Frank's past, it'll be like, immediately it's more distrustful if it's from him, isn't it?
Exactly. So she goes up, she describes, the body's in there, mentions that she's still got her top on, the body, but no panties or anything like that. So clearly something sexual did happen before it went down. But this is the thing, we don't know, did Frankie get there before like the whole thing happened? Was he there after the thing happened? Was he...
I mean, was he raping her and Benji tried to stop him and stabbed her accidentally? Like, we just don't know what happened.
Yeah. Because we still don't know, because as we say, our breasts were cut off. There was other insertions. There was a bit of hair cut off and put in an iron board.
Was some of it just to cover it up?
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, did they just want to make it look like some sick serial killer instead of them?
Yeah, to distance themselves.
Yeah. Make it a bit more kind of random looking in sort of. So, but I actually kind of love how it ends, where she tells her story and how she cleaned, and by the time she came back inside to start cleaning properly, they'd already taken the body in the truck. They were away to do whatever they were going to do, and she's very upset at this point, and he's like, okay, so which one killed her? Because that's still not come up. It's just like, here's the details, and she's like, I don't know, and that's when we cut to the credits. It's like, that's the cliffhanger. As we know. So I actually kind of like, I like that it ended with no, we have it narrowed down to two, and they're both complicit. One definitely aided and abetted, so they're both guilty of something. But
and they're both have enough in different aspects of going, okay, he could both be like either of them.
Yeah,
one's more organised, one's more disorganised, but they're both like, okay, it could be either of these.
Do you know what I like? In a general sort of cop show sense, it almost doesn't matter, and even like a sort of lawsuit. I mean, it does to an extent. Like a jury and like a judge would still want to know, and they still want to try them both for the right thing. But they're both guilty to an extent that you'd kind of just want them both to go to prison anyway.
Yes.
But in terms of this show, in terms of what the characters are actually doing, and recognizing who the killers are and recognizing what makes a killer. It is actually important to them to know which one actually did it, which one crossed the line.
Yes.
So I think that's fascinating. That's why I think it works at the end, because it's important to our characters which one did it. Not I think on just a sort of general justice sense, they're quite happy to just send them both to prison.
But they want to know which one do they need to interview further.
Yeah. Which one fits the profile? Which one adds to their research? So
yeah,
in that sense, it works quite well. So
definitely.
Good points. We got through this one much quicker than the last episode.
I think that's, like I said, it's the nature of being so focused on the case, where we discussed it, we're breaking down the case, but we don't have a lot of those other character moments. We don't have a lot of these other things that build, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It was nice to have just a focused episode on this, especially after I remember saying the last one felt a bit scattered at the start of that review. I mentioned that it was pretty the least focused.
Yeah. I do think 4 was maybe one of the better episodes. They've all been good, but that was probably one of the best episodes because it had such a fulfilling ending. Like, and they finally, it felt like they achieved something. Right. It felt like the end of like an arc almost.
It did, yeah.
Even though this case had already kind of started, but I guess that's kind of smart in how they're doing this. And I like that it didn't solve it in this one, because the last one took 2 episodes, and I thought, is this going to be the formula that it's going to be like, one episode sets up the case, then the next one. So no, this is like this is 3 episodes. This one's more complicated. And it's not just the same thing, because it's not just another serial killer. This is just kind of a one-time thing, potentially.
Yes, exactly.
And there's more to suss out. But of course, the one thing we've not mentioned is the opening scene. Now, there's not a lot to actually say about this one, but just to, this guy who works
definitely the briefest one yet.
Yeah, this guy who works for the alarm service, he walks down the street. It's very, very suspenseful. He walks up to the post box. He puts in a letter. He crosses the road. And that's it. We'll see you next time.
I actually turned to my girlfriend when I got to the end of the scene, the credits, and I went, is that it?
I like it, because I think the posting of the letter will be something important later.
It'll be relevant later, yeah. And I get it. It was just, I felt like I want more of this than just that.
I'll give them credit, though. They are building suspense. Like, I mean, obviously the last episode's opening scene when he's in the house was much better and suspense.
Which is why I think that's why I was like, is that it? I was a bit spoiled by the last one.
But I'm actually really excited about this build, though, and like getting to,
Yeah,
so,
me too. I'll tell you what, this is obviously this has kept the style of Fincher's look, and nothing told me that more than when they were sat in the bar. It was the greenest bar I've ever seen.
That's true. That's true. Also,
and the church too, when they were talking to the mother.
Yeah. Small character moment I quite liked, actually, was just when they're in the hotel room and Holden's like leaning right up against Bill to look at the photos at the same time. He's like, "Can you sit in your own bed?"
I like how he doesn't argue either. He's like, no, he doesn't. He's not like, no, I'm looking at this. I want to, we need to talk about this. He's like, no, he just gets up and walks over to his own.
Yeah. Doesn't our new budget give us like separate hotel rooms?
It's like, well, how do we talk about the case? We'll get conjoined rooms.
Yeah, which not every hotel has. Like, that's something. Especially, I imagine they're staying at a lot of smaller places, given their.
It looks like it.
Given they're just FBI on the road, like I feel like they're not going to like a 5-star hotel and.
No, nothing too fancy. Just basic overnighters.
Yeah. It's really solid episode. Focused really on the case. But each interview was pretty good, because I specifically liked the analysation of each one afterwards. Like, after they talked to Benji the first time and he broke down crying.
And that was a pretty important conversation that he had, about like, okay, but how did the crime make him feel? Did it feel genuine? And he was like, no, I just wanted it to stop. It felt uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's like, was it real? Was it a show? When he's talking to Wendy, he's like, how do I know? Like, well, you kind of knew. Your gut's telling you that it was a lie. So
Yeah, but he still questions himself. He's going, yeah, but I've got a whole town of people there who believe him, and maybe I'm the one that's wrong.
yeah, and I think what will make it really interesting is if we get another case where we get a similar kind of setup, but he is wrong, and the town actually is right.
That is, and I wonder if this is one of those things. Again, we talk about how he's worrying, is he like these people? That's why he's kind of prodding all these questions with Debbie and such. And it's another one of these things going where he's thinking, am I seeing the world differently to all these people because I'm like them? Like, is that why he's seeing it differently to all the town people, all the cops?
Yeah, well,
is he just going, maybe there's a bit of me in them?
Yeah, that's kind of what we said last episode. Yeah. We said how like it has like a tangential connection to them because he's just he sees the world a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Like these people might do.
And I think he's starting to worry about it a little bit.
It probably is, but I think that's actually again like I think again we said this last episode, but I think anyone who deals with this as a full-time job probably ends up worrying about that at some point. They probably because they get so wrapped up in this world of darkness and awful people.
Yeah, and I think especially because a lot of them don't seem that weird. Yeah, like they seem like, okay, they're a bit weirdos, but they're not that strange. A lot of them, are they? They're like they're people that you've encountered in your life.
We've not hit anyone that's like like tongue sticking out, like raving lunatic kind of idea yet. They've all been
right. Exactly. They all seem not quite normal, but very close. Like just something a little bit odd. And I think he's going, well, but I'm a little bit odd. What about me?
Yeah, I think ultimately what he has to learn is that being a little bit odd does not lead to being a serial killer. It's just that serial killers tend to be a little bit odd.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're a little bit odd, but I don't think you're killing anyone.
Yeah. It's all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs.
Aye. Actually, the way I like to say that is all jacuzzis are hot tubs, but not all hot tubs are jacuzzis.
All right, fine. Take your pick.
The reason why I like that one is because until I heard that, I didn't know that jacuzzi was just a brand. I just thought they were all jacuzzis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never knew it was a brand. It's kind of like there's a few things like that, like sellotape. I just thought the thing's called sellotape, but no, it's just one
just
brand.
Sticky tape, isn't it?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if in the future, like people called all motorbikes a Harley. For example, they don't just now, but I could see
it's like how all old people call a games console like a PlayStation or a Nintendo depending on what the time was.
Yeah, depending if it was the 90s or the 2000s, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. Like they'll just call it the one thing. By the way, people who call Pepsi Coke, stop it. You're awful people.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
No, the worst ones are the people who tell me that they can't taste the difference. You are dead to me.
You're wrong.
Also,
you're just wrong.
I remembered now. I said it to you just after we recorded the last episode yesterday, but I forgot. How much did Pepsi pay for the product placement?
I like how we accidentally stumbled onto Pepsi. Then you're like, oh, I had a Pepsi thing to say about last episode.
Yeah, that was yesterday, and I forgot it then. And I was never going to get to bring that up again. It was all over the back of that wall in the interview scene, and they kept going back there, and I kept seeing it, and I'm like, God damn it, I could do it for a Pepsi.
I like product placement when it's like a period piece. I like seeing
it feels natural, doesn't it?
Yeah, the old logo and stuff. I like it. It's fun.
And I don't actually mind product placement in general. When it's something like that, it's like, yeah, sure, I believe that there's something that would be there. That feels normal. It feels realistic.
Yeah, it actually bothers me more when they make up a fake brand.
Yeah, I mean, you can go too far with it and shove it in your face. Like,
see when you've got
Audi in the latest Spider-Man movie.
See when you've got four people who are all sitting at like a dinner table and they all have Cokes and they're all facing the camera. It's like, no, that's too much. Have two people have Cokes, then have two generic looking things, and mix it up. Have one only half facing the camera. That's all it takes.
Make like that. There. You had the big Pepsi logo in the background, but it was on a vending machine. It's like, okay, sure, there's a vending machine there. Sure, there's going to be Pepsi on it. I believe that.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously you could argue they chose to put a vending machine there. Well, sure, they did, but it's not unrealistic.
It feels natural, is the point, and it fills out the room.
Yeah, that's all it is. Just in case I'm not going too far. But there you go. That's episode 5. So we'll be back soon, hopefully. Given it's a shorter episode, I imagine we'll get to it relatively quickly. Of Mindhunter. So let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mild_fudge for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mildfuzztv. You can do that over there. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?